around the world. They're the only trees that grow in the ocean. So here they are, trees, and they've learned to grow into the mud. And the reason they can stand up in the mud, and some of these trees are enormous, is that they have thousands of roots, and they go down and hold themselves in the mud. So they take the CO2 out of the atmosphere and they put it into the mud. And so that's how they get it out of the air, and then they produce oxygen. But more important than that, they keep the coastline from eroding. So when there's hurricanes and big waves and things, it totally filters it out. We can have huge waves out in the ocean and it's calm in here. So it goes up and down every day with the tide. It goes up and down about 6 to 8 feet. Now if you look there, you see those little things that look like straws coming out of the ground?
Yeah.
Those are called pneumatophores. Pneumata is air. So that's how they breathe. They breathe through those little straws. Yeah, so the other thing is, fresh water is very precious to them. How do they get fresh water? Well, the roots themselves filter out the salt, 95% of the salt. The rest of it goes into the leaves, and the salt goes on the leaves. So if you pick a leaf, you can lick it and you'll taste the salt on it. And the leaves are covered with wax, so they, just like in the desert, so they don't lose any moisture. Because water is very precious to them, or they would die. So they maintain the water inside them. They form new trees by dropping down. You'll see every now and then things coming down from high above, and they make little feet and goes down into the mud. The other thing that's very important in the mangrove forest is the termites. You see big, huge termite mounds that are, some of them weigh several tons. They're black up in the trees. They eat all of the dead mangroves, and so they're very important. The other thing is the wildlife. They support hundreds of different species. One of them that you'll see is a little crab that has just one big arm. And one big arm doesn't do anything except attracts his mate. These are male crabs. They're about this big with a big red arm. And you'll see a lot of little ones climbing up and down. If you look carefully, you'll see crabs. There's 4 or 5 different birds. The one is the white egret that we just saw. The other one is the blue heron. And those are 2 great big huge birds that you'll see here frequently. There are also a lot of smaller birds and then many different kinds of fish. There's alligators or crocodiles that live here, but the people eat them a lot, so they're an endangered species here. So that's just in a nutshell. I don't know if we could grab one. If you want to grab one of those, hey, grab that leaf. Grab a couple of leaves. Yeah, just grab it. There you go. So you can pass that around and see how they have wax on them, and I don't see too much on this, but usually you'll see a little salt on the leaves themselves. So all around the coast here, they save the coast and actually build mud. The mud comes out and actually builds the coast out bigger instead of getting smaller. So that's kind of in a nutshell. There's a lot about it. On the National Geographic tours that I used to go with, people would pay a lot of money, $5,000 each, to go and spend a day in the mangrove forest.
Wow.
Mostly in Costa Rica and Panama, where I spend a lot of my time. But there's a lot more about these trees, but they're amazing. Most people don't realize that these forests exist. And if you look on the map, they're huge. There's many square acres. I'm trying to get the Salvadorians to understand the importance of this for their ecosystem and also for tourists. And they throw a lot of garbage around. You see, it's a shame that you see bottles and plastic and stuff. But trying to get them to understand the value of this mangrove forest. The mangrove forests are being cut down at a tremendous rate. And that's probably the most dangerous thing about them. They're far more beneficial than the rainforest, even, the mangroves. So, any other questions? That's just kind of in a nutshell what the mangroves are about. And as you go down, you'll see all these, you can see these roots coming down. And some of the big trees would have actually thousands and thousands of roots.
And there is also food that feeds the communities here, because inside the mangroves there are different kind of mollusks, like clams, shells, and all that. And people gather them like in low tide. They go into the mangroves, and sometimes they sink like knee high because it's mud, right? And then they put their hands in and grab the mollusk, and then for 100 of those they get paid $4.
Yeah, that's very true. You'll see them with their hands all
Yeah.
scraped up. That's how they make their living. It's absolutely right.
And-
The clams and things that live in the mud here.
And also to feed themselves, like they get that, and they also can feed their families. So almost 60% of the population do that, and mainly the women and men also. But they survive out of it, and if it is a good season, they can get paid $7. But that will be like their day of work, huh?